A losing battle for President Trump. That's how White House officials are describing the upcoming House vote aimed at compelling the release of all of the Justice Department's Jeffrey Epstein case files. The official made that comment to MSNBC, adding that there's still a chance White House aides meet with House Republicans to try to convince them to vote against the legislation, while acknowledging it will still likely pass despite those efforts. That would mimic the White House's failed pressure campaign this week.
Colorado praising her for being courageous and not backing down when the White House was putting so much pressure on her. So, again, a lot of cross currents there.
Okay, so let me tell you what just happened, because this is absolutely insane. Like, even for Trump, this is wild. Donald Trump just tried to have a federal judge arrested. Yeah, you heard that right. Not criticized. Not called out on Twitter, arrested, as in handcuffs, federal agents, the whole thing. And we're not talking about some random judge in a small town courthouse. We're talking about Judge James Boasberg, a federal judge who's been overseeing some of the biggest cases against Trump's administration. And here's the kicker. Within hours, literally hours, Trump's allies in Congress filed impeachment articles against this judge, like they had it all ready to go, just waiting for the signal. It's like watching a coordinated attack play out in real time. Now, you might be thinking, wait, can you even do that? Can a president just arrest a judge? And the answer is no, absolutely not. But that hasn't stopped Trump before, and it's not stopping him now. Because this isn't about what's legal or constitutional. This is about sending a message. This is about intimidation. This is about showing every judge in America what happens when you rule against Donald Trump. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
What's so fascinating about this, David Drucker, is you have people like, let's say Nancy Mason, South Carolina. She wants to be the next governor there.
After last week's election and with voters so unhappy about the economy. But I think this is just a case of a particular issue being important in its own right to the president's base and to grassroots Republicans who came to believe earnestly, it turns out.
And before you think I'm exaggerating, let me tell you something that actually happened. Back in April, a judge in Wisconsin, Judge Hannah Dugan, she ruled against one of Trump's immigration orders. You know what happened next? Federal agents showed up at her house. They put her in handcuffs. A sitting federal judge, handcuffed in her own home, because she made a ruling Trump didn't like. Can you believe this? Like, this is Banana Republic stuff. This is what happens in countries where the rule of law doesn't exist. But it's happening right here, right now in America. And the media? They're covering it like it's just another political story. Like it's business as usual. Oh, tensions between Trump and the judiciary. Oh, constitutional crisis brewing. No, this isn't tensions. This is an all-out war on the judicial system. And Trump is winning because nobody seems to understand how serious this actually is. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down exactly what happened with Judge Boasberg. We're going to talk about why Trump is so desperate to get rid of him. We're going to look at the impeachment articles that were filed. And we're going to connect the dots to show you what this really means for the future of American democracy. Because, spoiler alert, it's not good. But first, let's talk about who Judge James Boasberg actually is, because understanding that is key to understanding why Trump wants him gone so badly. Boasberg isn't some activist judge that Trump appointed and then turned on him. This guy has been on the federal bench for years. He was appointed by Barack Obama back in 2011. He served as the chief judge of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That's the FISA court, the one that approves surveillance warrants. So this is a serious, experienced judge, not some young radical trying to make a name for himself. And what's Boasberg been doing that has Trump so angry? He's been ruling against Trump's administration in several high-profile cases. Cases involving immigration policy, cases involving executive power, cases where Trump wanted to do something and Boasberg said, no, you can't do that. That's not how the law works. And Trump hates that. He absolutely hates it. Because in Trump's mind, he won the election. He's the president, so he should be able to do whatever he wants. And any judge who says otherwise is clearly biased, clearly political, clearly part of some deep state conspiracy to undermine his presidency. This is the mindset we're dealing with, and it's dangerous. Because when you have a president who believes that anyone who checks his power is his enemy, you don't have a democracy anymore, you have something else entirely. Now, Trump's not doing this alone. He's got a whole team of people enabling this. And that brings us to Representative Brandon Gill from Texas. This guy filed the impeachment articles against Boasberg on November 3rd, just hours after Trump started publicly attacking the judge. The articles accuse Boasberg of political bias and weaponizing the judiciary in something called the Arctic Frost investigation. And let me just say, the timing here is not a coincidence. This was coordinated. This was planned. They knew exactly what they were doing and when they were going to do it. This is how you wage a campaign against the judicial system. You attack from multiple angles at once. The president goes after the judge publicly. His allies in Congress file impeachment articles. The DOJ starts making threats. And before you know it, judges all across the country are scared to rule against the president because they don't want to be next. This isn't democracy. This isn't how any of this is supposed to work. And yet here we are, watching it happen in broad daylight, while most people are just scrolling through their phones, thinking this is normal political stuff. It's not normal. None of this is normal. All right, so let's dig deeper into this mess, because the more you look at it, the more disturbing it gets. First, we need to talk about the impeachment articles themselves. Now, impeaching a federal judge is actually a real thing that can happen. It's not common, but it's in the Constitution. Federal judges serve for life, but they can be removed through impeachment if they commit high crimes and misdemeanors. That's the standard, high crimes and misdemeanors. So what exactly is Brandon Gill accusing Judge Boasberg of? According to the articles, Boasberg abused his power. He showed political bias. He weaponized the judiciary. Basically, he ruled in ways that went against Trump's agenda, and therefore he must be corrupt. Do you see the problem here? They're not accusing him of taking bribes. They're not accusing him of breaking the law. They're accusing him of making rulings they don't like. That's it. That's the whole impeachment case. We don't like your decisions, so you need to be removed from the bench. This is insane, like genuinely insane, because if this becomes the standard, then any judge can be impeached anytime they make a ruling the party in power doesn't agree with, and that completely destroys judicial independence. That's the whole point of having lifetime appointments for federal judges, so they can make decisions based on the law without worrying about political consequences. But Trump doesn't care about judicial independence. He wants judges who will do what he tells them to do. And if they won't, he wants them gone. Now let's talk about the Arctic Frost investigation that Gill mentions in the impeachment articles. I'll be honest, there's not a ton of public information about what Arctic Frost actually is, but based on the context, it seems to be some kind of investigation related to Trump's administration, maybe involving executive power, maybe involving immigration, maybe involving something else entirely. The point is, Boasberg was overseeing this case, and he made some rulings that Trump didn't like, and now Trump wants him impeached. That's the pattern. That's what keeps happening over and over again. And here's the thing. This isn't just about Boasberg. Remember Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin, the one who got arrested in April. She ruled against Trump's mass deportation policies. She said you can't just round people up without due process. And within days, federal agents were at her door with handcuffs. Federal agents arresting a federal judge for doing her job. When that happened, there were protests. People took to the streets. Democrats in Congress went on every news show they could find to talk about how dangerous this was. Senator Bernie Sanders posted on Facebook saying Trump's arrest of Judge Dugan had nothing to do with immigration and everything to do with intimidation. But you know what? The protests died down. The news cycle moved on, and Trump learned that he could get away with it. He learned that he could push the boundaries even further, and now here we are with Judge Boasberg. Legal experts have been sounding the alarm about this for months. Back in March, scholars from Yale and Georgetown came out and said these challenges to judges are frivolous arguments that fuel constitutional crises. They're not based on legitimate legal concerns. They're political hit jobs designed to make judges afraid, and it's working. According to reports from Reuters in May, judges who ruled against Trump have had their families attacked, not just criticized online, actually attacked. Threats, harassment, doxing, all because they did their jobs and interpreted the law in ways Trump didn't like. Can you imagine being a federal judge right now? You've spent your entire career building up to this position. You've studied the law. You've worked your way through the system. And now you're supposed to make a ruling in a case involving the Trump administration. And you absolutely know that if you rule against him, you might get impeached. You might get arrested. Your family might get targeted. How are you supposed to make an impartial decision under those conditions? You can't. That's the point. The intimidation is the point. Now, Trump's defenders will say, well, these judges are biased anyway. They're all Obama appointees or Clinton appointees, and they're just trying to undermine Trump's agenda. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that judges don't have their own political leanings. Of course they do. They're human beings. But there's a huge difference between a judge having a political perspective and a judge making rulings that are legally unsound. And here's the thing. Trump appointed a ton of federal judges during his first term. He appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. He appointed hundreds of lower court judges. So if the judiciary was really this biased liberal institution trying to take him down, why do so many Trump-appointed judges also rule against him sometimes? I'll tell you why. Because even judges who share Trump's political views still have to follow the law. They still have to look at the Constitution and the statutes and the precedents. And sometimes, even if they want to rule in Trump's favor, they can't because the law doesn't support it. But Trump doesn't accept that. In his mind, loyalty means ruling in his favor every single time. And if you don't, you're the enemy. Representative Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat from Texas, has been one of the most vocal critics of this impeachment effort. She's called it a dangerous precedent for separation of powers. She's warned that it undermines judicial independence, and she's right. This is exactly what undermining judicial independence looks like. The separation of powers is one of the foundational principles of American government. The executive branch enforces the laws. The legislative branch makes the laws. The judicial branch interprets the laws. And each branch is supposed to check the other two. That's how you prevent tyranny. That's how you keep any one person or group from having too much power. But Trump is trying to eliminate that check. He's trying to make the judiciary subservient to the executive branch. And if he succeeds, we don't have 3 co-equal branches of government anymore. We have a president who can do whatever he wants with no accountability. And the scary part, he's not even hiding it. He's doing this all out in the open. He's openly calling for judges to be arrested and impeached. His allies in Congress are openly filing articles of impeachment based on nothing but political disagreement. And his supporters are cheering it on. They're saying, yeah, these judges need to be held accountable. They can't just rule against the president and get away with it. Except that's literally their job. That's what judges are supposed to do. They're supposed to rule based on the law, regardless of who they're ruling against, even if it's the president. This used to be something everyone agreed on. Conservatives and liberals might disagree about what the law says in a particular case, but they agreed that judges should be independent. They agreed that political pressure shouldn't influence judicial decisions. But now that consensus is breaking down, and it's breaking down because Trump is deliberately destroying it. Think about what this means for everyday Americans. Let's say you're in a legal dispute with the federal government. Maybe it's about taxes. Maybe it's about benefits. Maybe it's about regulations affecting your business. And you go to court because that's what you're supposed to do in America. That's how disputes get resolved. But now the judge hearing your case knows that if they rule against the government, they could face consequences. Real consequences. Not just criticism, but actual arrests, impeachment, attacks on their family. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to think twice. They're going to consider the personal cost of ruling against the administration. And that means you don't get a fair trial. You don't get justice. You get a system where the government always wins because the judges are too afraid to rule any other way. That's not a legal system. That's not justice. That's something else entirely. And we're sliding toward it right now. Okay, so let's break this down into the key points you need to understand because there's a lot going on here and it's easy to get lost in the details. But the big picture is actually pretty simple. Point number 1, Trump is waging a systematic campaign against the federal judiciary. This isn't about one judge or one case. This is a coordinated effort to intimidate judges across the country. We've seen it with Judge Dugan in Wisconsin. We're seeing it now with Judge Boasberg. And according to reports, there are more impeachment efforts being planned against other judges who've ruled against Trump. The goal is clear. Make judges afraid to rule against the president. And if that doesn't work, remove them from the bench entirely. It's authoritarian playbook stuff. You can look at countries like Hungary or Turkey or Venezuela and see the exact same pattern. The leader goes after the courts, replaces independent judges with loyalists, and suddenly there's no check on executive power anymore. And yeah, I know some of you are thinking, come on, you're being dramatic. America isn't Hungary. We have strong institutions. We have the Constitution. We'll be fine. But institutions don't defend themselves. They're only as strong as the people willing to protect them. And right now, not enough people are protecting them. Point number 2. The impeachment articles against Boasberg are completely baseless. Remember, impeachment is supposed to be for high crimes and misdemeanors, not for making decisions the president doesn't like. But that's all they've got. Boasberg ruled against Trump in some cases, therefore he's biased, therefore he needs to be impeached. If this standard holds, then literally any judge can be impeached at any time. All you need is a majority in the House that disagrees with their rulings, and suddenly lifetime appointments don't mean anything. Judicial independence doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is whether you're on the right political team. And here's what makes it even worse. The House is controlled by Republicans right now, Trump's party. So these impeachment articles might actually go somewhere. They might actually vote to impeach Boasberg, and then it goes to the Senate for a trial. And who knows what happens there. Even if Boasberg isn't ultimately removed, the damage is done. Every other judge in the country sees what happened. They see that ruling against Trump can get you impeached, can get you arrested, can get your family targeted, and they think twice before issuing that next ruling. Point number 3. This is part of a larger pattern of Trump attacking democratic institutions. It's not just the courts. He's gone after the media. He's gone after the Justice Department. He's gone after the FBI. He's gone after the intelligence community. Anyone who provides oversight or accountability, anyone who might stand in his way, and his base loves it. They see it as Trump fighting back against the deep state, fighting back against corruption, draining the swamp, all those slogans. But what's actually happening is the dismantling of the checks and balances that keep our system functioning. Because here's the thing about democratic institutions. They're fragile. They depend on people following norms and respecting rules and accepting that sometimes you lose. And when you have a leader who rejects all of that, who sees every institution as either loyal to him or his enemy, those institutions start to crumble. We're watching it happen in real time. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Point number 4, the media needs to cover this differently. I mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. When a president tries to arrest a federal judge, that's not a political story. That's not both sides have their perspectives. That's an assault on the rule of law. That's an attempted authoritarian takeover of the judiciary. But you turn on cable news, and it's all, well, Trump says the judge is biased, and Democrats say this is dangerous. As if those are equivalent positions. As if trying to arrest a judge is just one side of a legitimate debate. It's not. It's not a legitimate debate. There's no version of American democracy where the president gets to arrest judges who rule against him. That's not a thing. And treating it like it's just another political controversy normalizes behavior that should never be normalized. The press has a responsibility here, and they're failing. They're so worried about appearing biased that they're bending over backwards to present Trump's actions as just another political move. But some things aren't political. Some things are just wrong. And this is one of them. Look, I get it. Journalists don't want to be accused of taking sides. They don't want to lose access. They don't want to be called fake news. But there comes a point where neutrality becomes complicity, where treating both sides equally means you're not telling the truth. And we passed that point a long time ago. So what happens next? Well, the impeachment articles are filed. They'll probably go to the House Judiciary Committee. There'll be hearings, witnesses, arguments, and then there'll be a vote. If a majority of the House votes to impeach, it goes to the Senate for a trial. Now, impeaching and convicting a federal judge requires a 2/3 majority in the Senate. That's a high bar. But here's the thing. Trump doesn't necessarily need to win. The process is the punishment. The threat is the point. Even if Boasberg ultimately keeps his job, every judge in America has been put on notice, and Trump will keep pushing. He'll find another judge who rules against him. He'll have his allies file more impeachment articles. He'll have the DOJ make more threats. He'll keep testing the boundaries until something breaks, unless there's pushback, unless people actually take to the streets and stay there, unless members of Congress, including Republicans, stand up and say this is too far, unless the media covers this as the crisis it actually is, instead of just another day in Trump world. But I'm not holding my breath, because we've seen this pattern before. Trump does something outrageous. There's outrage for a few days, and then everyone moves on to the next thing, and Trump learns he can get away with it, and he pushes even further next time. That's how democracies die. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Not with tanks in the streets, but with the slow erosion of norms and institutions, with people getting tired of being outraged all the time, with everyone just accepting that this is how things are now. We're at a turning point. What Trump is doing to the judiciary, if it succeeds, fundamentally changes what kind of country America is. It changes the relationship between the branches of government. It changes what it means to be a judge. It changes what rights actually mean if there's no independent court system to protect them. And the scariest part, half the country doesn't see a problem. They think Trump is fighting corruption. They think he's standing up to activist judges. They think this is all justified because the other side was mean to Trump during his first term or during the campaign or whatever. But you can't fight corruption by destroying the institutions designed to prevent corruption. You can't protect democracy by undermining democratic norms. You can't restore the rule of law by arresting judges. This is serious. This is as serious as it gets. And if we don't treat it that way, if we keep pretending this is normal, then we deserve what we get. The 2026 elections are coming up. That's another reason why this is happening now. Trump wants a completely compliant judiciary before those elections because there are going to be challenges. There are going to be disputes. There are going to be cases about voting rights and election procedures. And Trump wants to make sure that when those cases go to court, The judges rule his way. It's all connected. The attacks on judges now, the intimidation, the impeachment articles, it's all setting the stage for what comes next. And what comes next is Trump trying to consolidate power even further, trying to make sure that no institution, no court, no election can stop him. So pay attention. Share this video. Talk to people about what's happening. Because the Judge Boasberg story isn't just about one judge. It's about whether we're going to have an independent judiciary at all. And that's something worth fighting for. More on this as it develops. And trust me, it's going to develop. This is just getting started. Trump's not going to stop with Boasberg. He's got a whole list of judges he wants gone. And unless something changes, unless people wake up and realize what's happening, he's going to keep going until there's nothing left to stop him. This is the fight of our generation, whether we like it or not, whether we're ready for it or not. And the outcome is going to determine what kind of country our kids grow up in. So yeah, it matters. It all matters. Every single bit of it.